Let me show you how easy it is to automate processing of your emails with Make. I will show you how to watch for new emails in your private Gmail inbox, filter them, extract essential information and export it to a spreadsheet. I will further extend the pipeline so that it automatically downloads all email attachments, bundles them as a zip archive, uploads to your Google Drive, and finally updates the spreadsheet with a link to the uploaded file. It's a lot of ground to cover, but you will be rewarded with a beautiful workflow that extracts important information directly from your mailbox and keeps it neatly organized on your Google Drive. This is a hands-on tutorial. Feel free to follow along and pause the video as often as you need, taking only a few steps at a time. I intentionally avoid talking about corner cases when things go left. Error handling, retries, debugging or monitoring are a must in any real-life scenario. I will cover some of these concerns in separate episodes. Thank you for joining me today, and I hope you will have fun and find inspiration for your own project. Let's get started. Head out to your dashboard, go to Scenarios, and let's create a brand new scenario. Give it a name that speaks to you. I will call mine simply Google Integration. Add a new module, search for Gmail, and select Watch Emails. Note that this is a trigger, an entry point into the pipeline we're going to build. When I open the module's configuration, the very first thing I need to establish is a connection to the desired Gmail mailbox. Since I've already played with this, I happen to have an active connection, meaning I'm good to go ahead and choose whichever folder in my mailbox I want to work with. However, if you have never connected any of your Google accounts, you will get an error, and that's perfectly fine. You see, letting a third-party application such as Make access emails in your private inbox or letting it upload files to your Google Drive is kind of a big deal, and they don't take it lightly at Google. Programmatic access to Google services is restricted, but as you will see in a minute, it's fairly easy to set it up in a safe and controlled manner. It is important to realize that users of the pipeline you're going to build will have to explicitly approve access to their mailbox, spreadsheet, and Google Drive. That's why it's not enough to simply copy and paste an API token. The initial setup is quite involved, but once you have built the foundation, it's easy to add on. Let's start with building the foundation. First of all, we need to create a new project in Google Cloud Platform. With each Google account, there is access to an administrative console where you can manage and organize resources, access rights, etc. If you are building an integration for someone else, then they will have to create the project and grant you access so that you can finish the configuration on their behalf. Now, open a new profile in Chrome and log in with the relevant Google account. I have created a brand new test account for the purpose of this tutorial. Once you're logged in, open a new tab and type console.cloud.google.com. Next, go ahead and create a new project. I will call it simply Make Integration. Once the new project is created, make sure to select it. Next, go to Enabled APIs and Services. Click on Enable APIs and Services. Search for Gmail API. Select it and press Enable. It will take a moment. As you can see, Gmail API is now enabled and ready for you to use. We will repeat this step later on with other APIs. Before we can access the API, we need to handle authorization. Namely, we need to decide what particular information in the user's email can be accessed and configure the user's consent screen. In the navigation menu, select APIs and Services and click on OAuth consent screen. Choose External Users. As app name, I simply put Make, but feel free to enter any name that makes sense to you. User support email, there is a single email registered in the project, so this one is a no-brainer. Scroll down to Authorized Domains and add make.com as well as integromat.com, which is still very much valid. The last thing I'm asked to add is a developer's email address. Feel free to enter whichever you like. Once done, press Save and Continue. I'm editing the user's consent screen I've just created. Next, I want to define what can be viewed and manipulated in the user's mailbox. Let me click on Add or Remove Scope and narrow down the displayed scopes to the Gmail API. Now, which particular scopes you choose largely depends on what you want to achieve in your application. For the purpose of this demonstration, I will allow for a pretty generous access to my test mailbox. Admittedly, not all my choices can be justified by what my demo app needs, but you should always definitely think twice before asking for permission to, say, delete emails or send emails on user's behalf. Once done, click on Save and Continue. We are almost done. In this step, I will add a single test email account. Since I will be using the mailbox of the owner of this project, I will enter his email address. Feel free to use any other Gmail. Just make sure you are able to log in as that user in Chrome. Once done, click on Save and Continue. Now we're done with the authorization config. We have allowed Make or Integromat interaction with Google. We have defined which exact information our application can access. Last but not least, we have added a test Gmail we want to access and watch for incoming emails. These settings are not set in stone. We can always come back later, review them and edit them. Before we can finally get back to Make and start building our pipeline, there is one last thing to do. We need to add application credentials. In order to connect the Gmail Make module, we need to create credentials. Head over to the Credentials section, click Create Credentials and choose OAuth Client ID. OAuth, aka Open Authorization, is a security standard that allows a third-party application access resources on user's behalf. The user's actual username and password is never revealed to the application. That is why we need to establish the client ID as an alternative means of authentication. Note that there are various kinds of applications we are able to connect this way. Choose Web Application as application type. Give it some meaningful name. I will call it simply a Make client. Next, scroll down to the Authorize to Direct URIs. This part is crucial for it to work. As part of the OAuth protocol, there is some back and forth between Google and your application. The application, by the way, needs to be ready to communicate via OAuth, which is obviously the case with Make. Let me add two links in this section. You need to type them in exactly as I do, otherwise the integration won't work. I will add a link to the Make documentation to the description of this video so that you can check it out. When I'm done, I simply click Create and wait until my client identification is ready. Now it's done. I can close this pop-up since I don't need the entire JSON definition. I can always download it later. Let me open the new client details. I want to copy the client ID and client secret. By the way, note this possibility to activate free credit. Google offers this possibility to brand new accounts. You can initially spend up to $300, which is enough for starter projects. It's a good idea to claim your free credit. Let me copy the credentials. I'm finally done with Google Console and now I'm back in my Make scenario editor. I'm just about to connect my Gmail so that I can watch for incoming emails. I've copied my credentials to clipboard. Let me add a new connection. I will call it simply My Google Connection. Advanced Settings allows me to enter the credentials. First, the client ID, followed by the client secret. Once I hit Save, it kicks off the process of the user's consent. First, I need to choose the right Google account. I'm presented with a warning that the application hasn't been verified. That's obviously fine, and I press Continue. Next, I'm warned that the Integromat will access some of my data, and I have a chance to review the access level. Again, I choose to continue, and with that, I'm done. Let me try to load my mailbox's folders. Yup, and here they are. My inbox, sent email, or even a custom folder, invoices, which I have created for the purpose of this tutorial. Now, when I'm connected to my mailbox, I can apply a simple filter. I only want to watch for unread emails from a specific email address. Let me confirm my choice and run the scenario. And voila, here is everything I would ever want to know about an incoming email. The sender, the recipient, the subject, the email body, all of the attachments, and a ton of other attributes. The email is in fact a notification generated by an eShop. Note how the subject carries a clear structure containing the brand name, order number, and most importantly the payment status. Let me copy the subject. I want to build a regular expression that reliably extracts useful information from it. To do that, I visit regex101.com. This is an excellent place to test regular expressions in various languages. JavaScript is the one I need for this exercise. I like to keep things simple. Assuming the text I need to extract is alphanumeric, I should be okay with just using the simple expression /w+. See how it nicely captures the values I'm interested in. I also need to remember each of the found values. Let me wrap the expression into parentheses. Now, I have to appreciate how the Match Information box provides invaluable guidance. With a tool like this, and a little bit of time at your disposal, you can easily extract information even when the pattern is way less obvious compared to my trivial case. Once I'm confident I arrived at an expression that works, I copy the resulting expression into clipboard and go back to Make. In the editor, I will add another module, a text parser, and connect it with the watch email trigger. Whenever a new email arrives, I want the parser to extract information from the email subject. Let me paste the regular expression and link the subject to the parser. That's all it takes. Now, since I also want to parse and capture the email's body, I will add another text parser using a similar regular expression. This time I'm looking for a line with order details. This leaves me with two identical modules, the parsers. Both of them are attached to the same source, the incoming email. I find this highly useful and flexible. There is even a better solution using a router. This is particularly useful for simultaneous processing. In my simple case, I'm okay with the second parser waiting for the first one to finish. Okay, time to show where this all is headed. I have prepared a spreadsheet with a handful of columns. They correspond to the structure we have observed in the email subject. Next, I have created a designated folder for email attachments. The idea is to download all email attachments to my Google Drive, bundle them into a single archive, and add a link in the spreadsheet. Let me enable Google Drive API and configure the allowed level of access. I will reuse the project we created at the beginning of this tutorial. After having enabled the API, I will amend the consent screen by claiming additional scopes. In fact, I will grant full access just to make things easy. I'm all done. Let me save the changes and move on. I have just added a new integration with Google Sheets. I'm using the add a row endpoint. Obviously, I had to approve of access to my Google Drive, and now I'm ready to get things done. First of all, let me select the spreadsheet I want to work with, as well as the right sheet, invoices. Now I only need to map email data to individual columns in the sheet, starting with the sender's email address over to the information parsed from the email subject and the body. Note that I won't deal with attachments at this point. I will get back to them in a minute in a separate step. Let me run the pipeline to see if it all works as it should. I see no errors. That's a good sign. And indeed, it looks like my spreadsheet was updated. Let me check the results. Yes, the spreadsheet seems to have been updated as expected. There is no link to attachments just yet, and that's fine. Let's tackle the attachments. There are two useful modules that help me gather and process all attachments with ease. Firstly, I attach Gmail's iterate attachments endpoint. As you can see, it connects to the trigger. To save space, I will bundle all attachments into a single zip archive. I will achieve that by adding another module called archive. In order to keep things neatly organized, let me prefix the archive's name with the order number. This way, I will be able to find the file on my disk even without having to look into the spreadsheet. Lastly, just to keep my make editor tidy, I will arrange the modules such that the pipeline is easy to follow. Now I'm ready to upload the archive onto my Google Drive. Let me run the pipeline. Okay, nice. The file's been uploaded, and now it's done. Let me see the details. Okay, here's the file name and links to the file as well. I will repurpose all of this information in my final step, where I update my spreadsheet with a link to the uploaded archive. Let me quickly verify the upload. Now I'm ready to update my spreadsheet with a link to the uploaded archive. Let me start by adding a new endpoint called update a cell. I will attach it to my spreadsheet. As for the cell itself, the column is fixed, but the row number depends on the current row. Now, the exciting part, constructing the hyperlink. I will definitely need the file name and the link to the file on my Google Drive. The only thing left for me to do is to write a bit of a markup so that the link is correctly rendered in the spreadsheet. Let me shuffle things around to keep it tidy and rerun the pipeline. And here we go. The link looks correct to me. Let me verify the final result. The archive has been uploaded. It contains all of the attachments. In my spreadsheet, I can see the link, and the visuals are telling me that it points to the right file. Thank you for watching thus far. It's been a journey, and I hope you found this tutorial useful. If you have experimented along with me, then by now you know how to work with Google Platform and manage Google APIs and services, grant safe access to user resources without relying on the user's credentials, extract structured data from emails using regular expressions, leverage Google Drive as a storage that's easy to organize and offers rich integration options. For example, you can keep track of the received invoices in a spreadsheet along with a link to the downloaded archive. Most importantly, you have learned how to iteratively build a complex scenario with Make. Experiment with different modules, test them both individually and as an orchestrated pipeline. Thanks again for watching, and let me know your thoughts and feedback in the comment section below.